This video has been a long time coming. So I previously did a video on the Umidigi S2, but I didn't go into too many details, and I said I was going to do a video on actually using the device as my daily driver for the next couple of weeks. And it's been more than a couple of weeks, but I'm still using it as my daily driver. So I'm going to do this follow-up video now to give you a little bit of an idea on the specs and what it can actually do. So stick around to find out more. It's TechWizTime. Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome week. My name is Jonathan and this is TechWizTime, the YouTube channel that does technology tutorial and review videos. Like I mentioned before, I've already done an unboxing and a sort of overview of this Umidigi S2 before, but I wanted to come back and let you know my thoughts after using it for a few weeks. So firstly, just a little bit of word on the specs. So what it is, it's a Helio P20 CPU inside. That's an 8-core, 2.3 GHz CPU. It's got the Mali T880 inside, as well as 64 gig of storage and 4 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. Bluetooth is 4.0 version, and the Wi-Fi is rated at N 2.4 gigahertz. It only comes in at Android 6, but it does come with a USB-C port down below. And this one is not rooted, unfortunately. The front camera is 5 megapixels, the rear camera is 13 megapixels. It's got a fingerprint sensor, and the big sell point with this phone is the battery size. It comes in at 5100 milliamp hours, which after my testing, I can see lasting for about 2 days with minimal use, but if you're a really heavy phone user, then you're probably gonna get about 10 hours worth of usage out of this. The other thing is this phone's display is 6 inches, but it only displays at 720p. So the screen resolution comes in at 1440 by 720. So not a full HD display, unfortunately. And generally you can get this phone for under $200. And if I've got a coupon, I'll put it down below as well. So onto some quick benchmarks. I've got the A1 SD bench tool here, and we can see that the internal read speed is 182 megabytes per second, which is awesome. The internal write speed comes in at 116 megabytes per second, which is equally as good. Onto the micro SD card speed, we can see here that the read speed is 43 megabytes per second, and the write speed is at 44 megabytes per second, so not too bad. And lastly, onto the RAM speed, and we're looking at 4,585 megabytes per second. Next up, I look at the Wi-Fi. Now, this kind of impressed me because it's only got the N and it only operates at the 2.4 gigahertz. It still gave me some pretty impressive specs. So the Wi-Fi download speed came in at 72 megabits per second, and the Wi-Fi upload speed came in at 69 megabits per second. So pretty impressive overall. Next up, I look at Antutu and I get a score here of 58,161 overall, with a 3D score of 9,269, a UX score of 26,312, a CPU score of 18,171, and a RAM score of 4,409. Next up was Geekbench, and here I get a single core score of 870 and a multi-core score of 3,644. And an extra test that I did here was the battery test. And after a 3-hour test, I get a score of 4,619, which when I did the math worked out to be about 10 hours of battery life with pretty heavy usage. Next up, I tested out the GPU with 3D Mark, and in Slingshot, I got a score of 871, but with Slingshot Extreme, I got a score of 632. Next up, I test out Ice Storm and I get a score of 11,030 and an Ice Storm Extreme score of 8,566. Next up, I test out the streaming and media capabilities of this phone, and Netflix works straight out of the box. However, YouTube does only display any 4K files, or 4K streams I should say, at 720p, which is fine because that's the resolution of the phone anyway. Next up, I try my luck with Kodi and some 4K files, and here I test out Big Buck Bunny, and unfortunately, it just doesn't meet the mark. Neither with the 30 frame per second file or the 60 frame per second file. But I also test out Jellyfish, which is multiple bit rates at 55 megabits per second, 140, 200, and 400, and unfortunately, only the 55 megabit per second file is able to be streamed at this stage. Now, I did test this over both the Wi-Fi network really close, as well as on the SD card itself. So either way, they just didn't work, unfortunately. I even tested it on the device itself since it's got really high read rates, but unfortunately still no luck. So that's streaming and so forth out of the way. Next, I have a look at some gaming, and I test out Psp Emulation with the emulator PPSSPP, and the first game up I test is Power Stone. Geez, that's a lot of Ps. So here I'm looking at a frame per second rate of 35 to 45 frames per second. So not near full speed of 60 frames per second, and you could probably get away with playing it, but it's gonna be a little bit choppy. Next up, I do test God of War, which is gonna kill any device, and you're looking at about 10 to 20 frames per second here. So Psp emulation probably isn't the aim of this device itself. Next up though, I do test out PlayStation emulation. And first off the bat is Final Fantasy VII, and this one actually plays back at 60 frames per second, so no problems there whatsoever. Metal Gear Solid, that streams back at 60 frames per second as well, so all good there. And lastly, Tekken 3, well, it streams at 60 frames per second as well, which some devices struggle with, so pretty impressive. And lastly, when it comes to gaming, I have a look at Dreamcast emulation with Raycast. And first off the bat here is Sonic Adventure 2, and we're getting about 40 to 50 frames per second, which is pretty playable, but it's not the full 60 frames per second that you need to get to be fully playable, I would say. Next up is Shenmue, which is getting about 25 to 30 frames per second. Not bad at all. And lastly, the other fighting game, Soul Calibur. And you can see here we're getting about 45 to 55 frames per second, which is still pretty okay. Like, it's not 100% playable, but you could probably get away with it. So with that all said, what did I actually think of the phone over using it over the last couple of weeks? Well, it's been a little bit of an adjustment going from iOS to Android, but the main reason that I wanted to is the restrictions that are being put in place by Apple at this stage. I like to customize things, I like to change things up and add little things and so forth, and Android just seems a little bit closer to what I would like to use as a tech person, whereas iOS and Apple are a little bit constricted. Most days I am getting about 2 days worth of battery life out of this. If I'm using it particularly a lot in one day, then I will only see about a day's worth, and it will go down to about 20%. So not bad on the battery life. The display itself has been really good, I've been enjoying it. I haven't noticed that it's not a full 1080p, so not too bad in my opinion. So with all the good things out of the way, what are some of the bad things that I've encountered, or some of the cons, I guess? And there haven't been a lot, but one of the things that I had when I first got the phone was installing my SIM card. I had issues with getting mobile data to the phone, and I found that was just a setting that was disabled in the settings section. I'm not quite sure if that happens with every Android phone, but it did with my experience. So if you're not getting mobile data, go through your settings and check it out there. One of the other issues that I did have is involving the camera. I installed a QR code app and it sort of just disabled it completely. I had to reset the phone and that got it back up and running. So I have had a couple of issues with the phone's camera, but it's not something that I use all the time. I'm not a huge video/photo taker. And again, the quality of the front-facing camera was awesome, but in low light situations, not so good. So with all that said and out of the way, would I recommend this to people? I would say yes. For a sub $200 phone that has all these features, it is a really, really good phone. Not so much for the camera. If you're looking for a better quality camera, you're gonna have to spend a little bit more. I'd say in the $500 price range. I don't think you'd need to go to the flagship $1,000 phones, but if your camera and video and all that sort of thing are important to you, then I would definitely look at the mid-range phones. So if you're interested in grabbing one of these for yourself, there is a link down in the description below, and if I find a coupon code, I'll also include that down there for you too. The other thing as well is that the Umidigi S2 Pro is actually coming out soon. I'm gonna try and get my hands on that, so if you'd like to see that review, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and also make sure you switch on notifications so you get notified when I do release a new video. If you've got someone that needs to upgrade their phone or needs a new one, then share this video with them and let them know and see if they think it's any good. Also, if you could throw it a like, that would really help a lot. And with that all said, thanks for watching this video, and as always, imagine, learn, create.